An 18-year-old college student stops answering her phone. At first, it feels like the kind of silence a family tries to explain away. Maybe she's asleep. Maybe she's out. Maybe she just hasn't checked in yet. But inside a small apartment in Minot, North Dakota, something violent had already happened. And by the time Anita Knutson's family realized something was wrong, Anita was gone.
She was young, smart, at the beginning of her adult life. She came from an adoptive family with a brother named Daniel and a sister named Anna. A daughter, a student, a young woman with a future that should have reached far beyond the summer of 2007. Instead, Anita was found stabbed to death in her own bedroom, and what followed was years of questions, years of suspicion, years of a case that never fully let go of the people who followed it. Because this wasn't just a cold case. It became a case people thought should have been solved. Then a case people thought had finally broken open. And then a case that ended in acquittal, without giving Anita's family the closure they had waited so long for.
No problem. All units I'm with the corner of Pleasant Hill and John Young Freeway. 1519519 East 18.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Crime Solver Central. I'm Jace. Unfortunately, Charlie is out sick today, but thankfully we have one of our favorite true crime analysts, Katie from Dark Times with Katie, formerly Tea Time True Crime with Katie, filling in. Welcome back, Katie.
Thanks, Jace. Hi, I'm Katie, if you guys don't know me. I am formerly known as Tea Time True Crime with Katie, and known now as Dark Times with Katie. And today we are covering a horrific case, and thank you so much for having me here.
Today, we're covering the case of Anita Knutson from Minot, North Dakota, because this is one of those stories that still feels deeply unsettling years later. A young woman is killed in her own home, and the case goes cold. An arrest finally comes, and then the trial leaves people with even more debate than closure.
Anita was only 18 years old. She was at the point in life where everything is supposed to be opening up. School, independence, plans for the future. So when a case like this ends in violence inside a place that should have felt safe, it doesn't just feel tragic, it feels wrong.
This is Anita Knutson reporting live from North Dakota. There is a ginormous tornado coming towards us from the southeast.
Whether she was hamming it up for the camera or out dancing with her girls, Anita Knutson was the kind of person almost everyone liked having around.
Let's lay out the case clearly. In June of 2007, Anita Knutson was living in Minot, North Dakota. When her family couldn't reach her, concerns started building. Eventually, her father went to check on her apartment. And that's when everything changed.
Anita was found dead in her bedroom. She had been stabbed in her bed twice in the chest with a pocket knife. That is the central image of this case. A young woman inside her own apartment, killed in a place that should have been safe. And from the very beginning, investigators had major questions to answer. Was this a break-in? Was this scene made to look like one? Was the killer a stranger? Or was the person responsible someone much closer to Anita's life?
That's a huge reason this case has stayed alive in people's minds for so long. Because it felt like the answer had to be close. A small city, a young victim, a contained crime scene. The kind of case people look at and think should make sense faster than it did.
But it didn't. Instead, the case sat unsolved for years. And over time, It became one of those investigations surrounded by rumor, local memory, and public suspicion. People kept coming back to the same questions. Who had access to Anita? Who knew her routine? Who could have gotten close enough to attack her so suddenly?
When a case sits for this long, the mystery changes shape. Witness memories get older, rumors grow louder, and people start filling in gaps with assumptions. But Anita's name never really disappeared. Her case stayed active in Minot. It stayed active with the people who loved her. And it stayed active in public conversation because so many people believed the truth had to be somewhere near the center of her life.
It's thought that after his sister's death, Nichole Knutson felt lost and devastated. He became involved in a life of drugs as a result of his despair, ultimately taking his own life in 2013. The only surviving sibling, Anita Knutson, is left to live with the aftermath of this tragedy. Then, in 2022, the case took a major turn. Police arrested Anita's former roommate, Nichole Rice. And suddenly, a case that had been cold for nearly 15 years was back in the headlines. For a lot of people, that arrest felt like the moment everything was finally coming together. Like maybe the wait for justice was ending, but that's not how it played out.
When the case finally went to trial, the prosecution argued that Rice killed Anita during a roommate conflict. The state's theory was that this was not a random outside attack. It was personal. It was inside the apartment. And it came from someone in Anita's immediate world.
Part of the prosecution's case involved testimony about tension between Anita and Rice. There was a discussion of conflict inside the apartment. There was also testimony tied to statements Rice was alleged to have made over the years. Those statements became a major part of what the jury had to weigh. Because when physical evidence is limited, witness testimony can carry enormous weight. It can also become a major weakness if the defense convinces the jury that those witnesses are unreliable, inconsistent, or influenced by time and rumor.
And that is exactly where the trial became so important. Because this was not a case where the jury heard some overwhelming piece of modern forensic evidence that settled everything. This was a case built heavily on interpretation, on statements, on old memories, on the prosecution's belief that the story pointed back toward Rice. It was also built upon the inconsistencies of Rice's statements, whose story changed multiple times.
The defense pushed back hard. They challenged the credibility of witnesses. They attacked the strength of the state's timeline. And they argued that investigators had built too much of the case on suspicion and not enough on proof. That distinction matters because suspicion can feel powerful. But in a courtroom, suspicion is not enough. The state has to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt.
And in the end, the jury found Nichole Rice not guilty. That verdict did not mean Anita was not murdered. It did not mean the case was solved. And it did not mean people stopped debating what happened. What it meant was narrower, but incredibly important. The prosecution did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Nichole Rice killed Anita Knutson.
That's why the acquittal hit this case in such a complicated way. Because for some people, it felt like proof the wrong person had been accused. For others, it felt like the state may have had the right theory, but not enough evidence. Another point of contention was the behavior of the defense upon the acquittal, which many deemed inappropriate. And for many people following the case, it brought them right back to the original heartbreak. Anita was still dead. The case was still unresolved. And the biggest question was still hanging there. If Rice didn't do it, then who did?
Interim Minot Police Chief Dale Plessis sent this statement to KX News regarding the not guilty verdict in the Nichole Rice trial. It reads in part, quote, "First and foremost, our thoughts are with Anita Knutson's family and loved ones. This case has had a lasting impact on our community, and I recognize the emotional toll it has taken on so many people. At this time, with the not guilty verdict, there are no further developments that the Minot Police Department can comment on regarding the future of this case," end quote. The state's attorney's office and Rice's defense team, Sand Law, have not commented on the case. To view the full statement from MPD's interim chief, just head over to our website, kxnet.com.
Now we're going to shift into theories. Not accusations, not conclusions, just the main lanes that people discuss based on the history of the case, the prosecution, and the acquittal.
Theory number 1. Rice was responsible, but the state could not prove it. This is the theory closest to the prosecution's position. The idea here is that the killing was personal. It happened within Anita's immediate environment, and the evidence pointed in the right direction, but not strongly enough for a conviction. People who believe this theory often point to the roommate conflict angle, and the idea that this setting feels intimate rather than random.
Theory 2. The wrong person was charged, but the killer was still someone close to Anita. This theory survives because the apartment setting still feels personal to a lot of people. It suggests that investigators may have been right to focus on Anita's close circle, but wrong about exactly who was responsible. In other words, the murder may still have come from someone near Anita's life, just not the person the state put on trial.
Theory 3. An intruder entered the apartment and attacked Anita. This theory has been part of the case from the beginning. Supporters of it argue that too much attention may have gone toward Anita's personal relationships, while the possibility of an outside attacker stayed in the background. If that's true, then the real killer may never have been as close to Anita as people assumed.
Theory 4. The case became shaped by years of rumor, pressure, and cold case frustration. This theory focuses less on one suspect and more on the investigation itself. The idea is that when a case sits unresolved for years, pressure builds. People want answers. Communities form strong opinions. Investigators revisit old names. And sometimes, a theory can start to feel true long before it is actually proven. That's why the acquittal mattered so much. It reminded everyone that public suspicion and courtroom proof are not the same thing.
And that's what makes Anita's case so frustrating. There are theories, there are strong opinions, and there is history. But the central question still feels unfinished. Who entered that apartment? And what exactly happened to Anita Knutson?
Do any of these theories make sense to you? Do you have one of your own? Let us know in the comments.
Now we want to talk about what actually helps. Because attention matters, but useful information matters more.
If you know anything about Anita Knutson's case, anything tied to her life, her apartment, her relationships, or statements made around the time of the murder, reach out to the proper authorities. And if you're more comfortable sending information through us, you can also submit tips to Crime Solver Central through our channel and website.
And even if something feels small things can matter in cases like this. A comment someone made, a memory that never sat right, a detail about the apartment, a conflict that seemed minor at the time. Those are the kinds of pieces people often revisit when a case is still unresolved.
We also want to remind everyone to keep the conversation respectful. Anita is not just a mystery. She was a real young woman with people who loved her. And whatever your theory is, that should always stay at the center of the discussion.
Thanks for spending your time with us today. Share this video, subscribe to Crime Solvers Central, and help keep Anita Knutson's name in the light. And if you would like, you can check me out on Dark Times with Katie, which was formerly Tea Time True Crime with Katie. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell on the notifications, and please do the same with Crime Solvers Central. Remember, like I always say, you are doing better than you think. Thanks for having me, Jace.
And thank you, Katie, for being with us. Until next time, stay safe, stay curious, and stay loud.